and let us all do we can to build a better future. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is a Tulsi time. Now, why is it a Tulsi time? Well, because Nina Turner, yesterday on her show, had Representative Tulsi Gabbard as a guest on her show. She was being interviewed by her. It was an hour-long video. I watched that video interview, and I have to say, if there are two people who are going to have a future career in or make an impact for 2024, hopefully, it is going to be Representative Tulsi Gabbard and Nina Turner. But dare I say, I think Nina Turner, with her movement and her organization skills and so much more,
she has a few more keys than Tulsi.
She has a few more keys than Tulsi's. But I gotta say, like, even watching this interview, the takeaway from this was Congress is horribly corrupt and inept, and in many ways, I could see Tulsi kind of getting annoyed and angry with just how Congress is acting right now. Yeah. And it's understandable why she's stepping down, not because of now because of the DNC, but maybe it's because of the lack of coordination, the amount of corruption there. It could take a toll on somebody. And Jimmy Dore was talking about it on this show, like, hey, you got to stop putting progressives in the Democratic Party because progressives are going to be silenced by the Democratic Party. And Jimmy Dore is right about this. You can't have people who want to have Medicare for all, UBI, ending regime change wars in the Democratic Party when they're just as corrupt as the RNC. So to be fair to Nina Turner, I recommend to all of you, please check out her show. It's called Drop the Mic. We have the link to it in our show notes as well, so be sure to check that out. Show notes is in the description box below. But this is just a snippet from that video. Phase, can we play just this segment about from this interview with Nina Turner towards Representative Tulsi Gabbard? And just to put in some context, this is about the overall threat of nuclear weapons, and
it's a big thing for Tulsi.
Yeah, and the thing is, I really like this part, and I don't want to give too much away because you guys have to see this full interview. But let's play this snippet real quick.
Historically, the nexus between what was happening generations ago under other administrations and what is happening now.
This is something that you won't hear talked about on any of the cable news networks. You won't hear talked about on the evening news. But we are facing the reality of a new our country has entered into a new Cold War with Russia and China. Yeah. Why should anybody who's watching us today care about that? Well, we should all care about that because of what we just talked about, that by entering into this new Cold War, we are seeing a proliferation, a beginning of mass new production and proliferation of new nuclear weapons, some of them larger, some of them smaller, what they call tactical nuclear weapons, completely ignoring the reality that President John F. Kennedy saw, which is a single nuclear weapon has the power to spark a war that would destroy our entire planet.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, I was just going through some of his old speeches. I'd love to share just a short quote that I think really captures what's at stake here and why we should all join together in raising our voices to sound the alarm bells and once again hold elected leaders accountable to stop this insanity here. After negotiating the nuclear test ban treaty, President Kennedy, this is just a short excerpt from his address to the American people in 1963. He said, "A war today or tomorrow, if it led to nuclear war, would not be like any war in history. A full-scale nuclear exchange lasting less than 60 minutes with the weapons now in existence." Again, this is in 1963. The weapons now in existence could wipe out more than 300 million Americans, Europeans, and Russians, as well as untold numbers elsewhere. And the survivors, as Chairman Khrushchev warned the communist Chinese, quote, "the survivors would envy the dead. For they would inherit a world," end of quote, "for they would inherit a world so devastated by explosions and poison and fire that today we cannot even conceive of its horrors. So let us try to turn the world away from war. Let us make the most of this opportunity and every opportunity to reduce tension, to slow down the perilous nuclear arms race, and to check the world's slide toward final annihilation.
Yeah.
That encapsulates not only what our country was facing in 1963 and why he felt so compelled to do what everyone said was impossible and come to this agreement with Chairman Khrushchev at that time. Mm-hmm. This is the world that we face today. And this is the call that must be made to our leaders to exercise that same kind of bold courage. Otherwise.
All right. So again, we don't want to give too much away because I do recommend it. All of you sit down.
Out.
Yeah, please go check it out. Shout out to Nina Turner for actually having Representative Tulsi Gabbard on. I think those two definitely do have a long career and potential future for 2024. And I do send my best to Representative Tulsi Gabbard as this is her last session in Congress. Yeah. But there's a couple things I want to take away from this. Number one, the overall threat of these weapons of mass destruction that we have pointed at each other. Two, the very fact that Democrats and Republicans within the RNC and DNC establishment are still ignoring the fact or still hungry for the fact that they want continued war. That's the whole purpose of the military-industrial complex.
Upgrade.
Yeah, and it's rather sickening. And on top of that too, like the interview goes further because Tulsi Gabbard talks about her campaign, and there's a lot of very interesting points that she brings up about what she has had to deal with on the campaign trail. But also there's some very emotional stories too. I don't want to again ruin it all for you guys. I recommend that you guys watch it for yourselves because it'll give you an insight just on who Representative Tulsi Gabbard is and really how insidious the corporate media is in regards to smearing her. And, this is something that we all have to be concerned about, especially when it comes down to weapons of mass destruction, but also at the same time too, looking at those who want to bring in change. Nina Turner and Tulsi Gabbard are those two people that have what it takes to build strong coalitions, and we have to be ready to fight for that better future. Daniel, I'm going to give you the final word.
Yeah, so Tulsi's been a very interesting person for us at Hardlands Media. If you've been with us a while, you know exactly what we're talking about. We did a lot of coverage on Tulsi during the election for the simple point, as Kit alluded to, is that everyone hated her because she stood against the corruption. She, in 2008, made the worst crime that you could possibly...
2016.
2016 committed the worst crime imaginable to the DNC, and that was backing Bernie Sanders as the second in command of the DNC and calling out their, let's be kind and say, favoritism. And then, of course, that was spread in the media. Every media person's like, let's look up every bad thing Tulsi does more than we do any other person. And it was a real shame because I had a lot of people who were quote unquote progressive that, I worked with in Iowa, or I knew, mainly through Facebook, that hated her and thought she was a right-wing puppet. And I would always just be like, wow, you're really taking in that propaganda really well. The reality is Tulsi is someone who is true to themselves. She's going to make mistakes, but she's going to make mistakes that she thinks are correct. She's not doing it because some consultant told her to roll up her sleeves at a time or someone told her to pass this policy. She's a growing person who has evolving ideas, but they're always genuine. They're not the Hillary Clinton style, oh, gay people are okay now, that a lot of people think gay people are okay. And it's crazy. The propaganda on her got so bad that people were like, oh, she's anti-LGBT, even though she was pro before Obama, before Hillary. So she got absolutely demolished by propaganda. And I would venture a guess that you don't put that amount of propaganda and time at someone if they're not a threat that you are genuinely afraid of. And as far as Nina Turner goes, I think she has perhaps if their hope is to think that exists, she is someone who I think would be an amazing cupbearer in another election because she is not afraid the way Bernie is. And actually, I'm going to quote Little back on Tulsi, but I think this also applies to both of them. The monster under your bed is there because it's hiding from Tulsi.
And that's a very good way to end this segment. And I just got to say this, never hero worship anyone on social media or a politician or anything else, but you can respect people. And when they are challenged, you see, who they are. And I have to say this in regards to the smear job, the horrible smear job that corporate media did to Tulsi Gabbard, I don't know if I would have the stability or the overall heart to continue on. And yet she kept on pushing forward and was the last woman candidate in the Democratic primary. Now, you don't have to like the fact that she endorsed Biden or anything else. I mean, I didn't like it either, but at the end of the day, corporate media will never acknowledge it. The last woman standing was Representative Tulsi Gabbard. And she stood. She did not break. She did not fall. And I think we all can learn that lesson. But now more than ever, I think Tulsi Gabbard would agree that we'd have to do what we can to build a better future.